Today, we have a very special guest and a Declutter Hub podcast first. So many of our community are pet lovers, and sometimes we sadly need to say goodbye. We have invited Kevin Spurgeon from Dignity Pet Cremation onto the podcast to tell us how they support and help families say goodbye to their beloved pets from cremation to remembrance. Disclaimer. In this podcast, we talk about the loss of pets and how to deal with their belongings.
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here's your host, Ingrid Jansen.
Hello and welcome, listeners. I'm Ingrid. If you're new to the Declutter Hub podcast, you're so welcome. What you'll find is that we try and find the fun factor in the serious business of decluttering. And if you've been here for a while, you know exactly what we mean. So thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to get involved in conversations related to this podcast, it all takes place in our free Facebook group. So come and join our lovely, warm and supportive community. Go to declutterhub.com/group to find out more. Well, Kevin, hello. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited that you're here, and I want to thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Hello, Ingrid. Thank you for having me. When you first contacted me, I kind of scratched my head and thought, okay, what are we going to talk about on a decluttering podcast? And then, of course, when we had a conversation, you look at it and actually, wow, there's a lot to talk about. So hopefully we'll get into it and it will bring some worth to the people who are listening.
Yes, well, it's really kind of interesting how this came about because you were actually recommended by one of our Declutter Hub members and also podcast listeners, because we were talking about one of our live sessions to say, we would love to do something about pets, me and Leslie, but neither of us own pets. We don't have stuff that belongs to pets. And of course, logical thinking, we can talk about it. But we thought, actually, we really would love to talk to somebody who knows a lot about it. And one of our members said, you need to talk to Kevin and get him onto the podcast. And when I reached out, I think you were a bit like, what? Decluttering? What does that have to do with pets? We're not going to declutter pets. And I'm like, Kevin, don't worry, we're not going to declutter pets. But of course, pets are such a big part of our lives. And so many of our people in our community, in our Facebook group, our podcast listeners have pets and have all the stuff that goes with pets. And the more I looked onto your website, the more I listened to another podcast that you did with on another show, I was like, wow, we have a lot to get through and so fascinating. And you're doing amazing work. So can you tell me more about how, on earth do you start a pet cremation center? I mean, it's not like a normal, well, it is a normal thing, but it's not really kind of in the usual things of what's your job description kind of thing. So where did it all start?
Yeah, so if we can sort of jump into a time capsule and teleport ourselves back 33 years. My parents, my father was a fashion agent for 30 years and my mum supported him in that. And they were sitting by the fireside with a couple of wonderful German shepherds by their feet, watching the TV, and a documentary came on. And that documentary showed how much loved pets after they've passed away are stored in veterinary deep freezers, and then a vehicle comes around, a big van, once a week and takes the body bags and puts them in the back of a vehicle and goes to the next vet and the next vet and the next vet until it's full and takes them all back. And they saw that, and they had a German shepherd called Brutus, who was older than the other one, who was called Caesar, who I still miss to this day. Wonderful dog. And they thought, there's no way they're gonna do that to Brutus. So they looked into it and thought, well, okay, if they can't do it like that, how we want it done, which is with respect and love and care, then We'll do it. We had a Victorian brick kiln in the garden, which is a oast housey looking building, very, very old. We'd repointed that, and my father thought, well, if I put a cremator in that building, then people like who think the same as us might well come along and have the service. And 33 years later, I'm now at the helm. My parents' ashes are beneath a lovely tree that was their favourite tree here, surrounded by their pets' ashes. And Dignity has gone from strength to strength based on that one principle, which is we look after them with respect and love. We personalize the service so you get what you want. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. It's absolutely incredible, and I will definitely put your details in the show notes, because I think it's so fascinating. It's a beautiful place. I've looked at some of the videos you have on the website. I've looked at some of the pictures. It's an absolutely gorgeous place, and I can imagine people feel that there's love in there and that there's care for the animals.
Yeah, and you know, Ingrid, at this point, probably before we get into the whole decluttering thing, one of the pieces of advice I'd give to everyone is, yeah, our place is beautiful. It's amazing. We show pictures of it
Hmm.
online and videos so people can see where their pet's coming to.
Yeah,
What I'm finding more and more is a lot of places put very nice sentiments, but they don't put pictures of where the pets are going. And
yeah,
actually, the biggest thing you can do to protect yourself is go along, see the place, make sure you're happy with it before you choose that service. You
yeah.
don't need to leave them at the vets. You can actually handle and arrange that side of things yourselves. And
Hmm.
I'm part of an association called the APPCC, which is the Association of Private Pet Cemeteries and Crematoria, and they all adhere to the same high standards as us. So just don't just leave your pet behind. You don't have to do that. You can organize it yourself.
Right. So what you're basically saying to me is when a pet passes away, it often the vet is involved, or it happens in the vet. The vet then holds them, and they, I assume, suggest like we can take care of this, but you're saying you don't have to let the vet take care of it. You can take matters in your own hands, and you can kind of go, okay, but what do I want and where do I want my pet to go, and where do I feel happy with it? Is that right?
Indeed. And when you're in a grief state, one
Yeah.
in seven things goes in.
Yeah.
So you can be swept along by events and find that you've not actually asked questions that when you're not compromised, you'd be asking.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when Granny dies, you kind of want to know where she's going to be kept, how she's going to be treated, and so on.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the biggest thing for people is to know that they have that control, know that, and again, obviously this is going out to a global audience, right? So everywhere's different, but what we found in the UK is that, and I know it's happening in other countries, more and more vets are being bought out by corporate entities. Those
Okay.
corporate entities own their own pet crematoria.
Yeah.
If they don't, then they contract to a large company that will give them a low cost price to
Hmm.
opportunity to make high profit from the arrangement of the cremation.
Yeah.
So you could be paying a lot of money for a very low cost service if you leave your pet at the vet. And that's not all vets, which is
Yeah.
why it's kind of, you've got to check out and understand what you want and how you want your pet looked after, how the
Hmm.
company does it in advance.
Yeah.
And don't be frightened to go, right, until I've made my mind up, please,
Hmm.
can you hold my pet so I can look into this? Don't
Yeah.
just get swept on by events.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like because I'm kind of thinking ahead. You almost have to be quite organized when the pet's still healthy and good, because I mean, of course, some pets like tortoises get really old, right? But most pets, we probably outlived them. I think we can say that.
Sure.
So you need to kind of, when you have a pet that you love and is in your life, you almost have to think ahead, like, okay, at some point when the pet possibly gets poorly, which vet do I go to? Which service am I happy with? Do I need to try it several ones? And what happens if the pet unfortunately passes away? What's then the plan? Exactly what you're saying. Instead of in the moment when you're, probably distraught by your beloved pet
Yeah.
dying, and you have to there's lots of things, because I read it all on your website. I was like, you've got like all these stages, and we need to talk about this, and we need to talk, and I was like, it had never occurred to me. And it's like, maybe it's because I don't have pets, but I was like, wow, you have to think about these things in advance, because there's a lot to take care of and handle.
Yeah, I think people just presume that cremation means respectful handling and that they're
Hmm.
going to be on their own. Again, different countries do different things. So
Yeah.
in America, there are the terminology of an individual cremation quite often means that the pet is on a tray in the same chamber as other pets, where they're all
Yeah.
being cremated at the same time, and you get what's left on your tray.
Okay.
Whatever falls in or out, I don't know what happens to that. That's why we don't do that here. Individual for us means one pet at a time in a chamber on its own, with
Yeah.
all those remains being taken out and given back to the client, the family.
Yeah.
So that's crucial to the thing. So in America, private cremation means the same as individual cremation over in the UK.
Hmm.
So understanding the different options that are available, if you can do it in advance, it's easier said than done, right? To
Hmm.
be thinking of this in advance. How
Yeah.
many of us actually do plan to the nth degree our own funeral?
Yeah.
Um, I say both my parents are passed now. My father, who was a very sound mind, it was just his body that failed. We sat and we had long discussions about kind of what did he want, and
Hmm.
and through those discussions in advance, because he knew he was going to die, he had a lung problem, and he knew it was going to happen.
Hmm.
So we weren't frightened of talking about it because of what we
Yeah.
do. And out of it came that he wanted a gospel choir at his funeral.
Hmm.
Okay, and also where they wanted their ashes to go with their pets here, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But if we'd never had that conversation, he wouldn't have got what he wanted, and we'd
Yeah.
have been second guessing as a family, which so many families do. I had to do
Yeah.
it with my mum because she had Alzheimer's. So, but the point where that conversation needed to be had, she was not there anymore.
Yeah.
Her
Yeah.
mind had gone, bless her.
Yeah.
So yeah, having that conversation, even if you're not having it with any family members, and just write down what you want,
Hmm.
and kind of looking at that whole pet ashes and human ashes thing. Obviously, again, different countries will have different rules, but in the UK, you can't take your pet ashes and put them in your own coffin if you're dying and placing them in there, or scatter them in a human crematorium grounds,
Okay.
because they are classed differently to human ashes.
Right.
So that's why kind of my parents coming here spurred us on to go, So same way that when mum and dad started was like, other people might want this. So we said to everyone, look, if you want your ashes here, your human ashes here, then you can come and be beside your pet, because it doesn't work the other way
Way
around.
around. Oh, I had no idea. I had honestly no idea. And actually, maybe kind of another random question. Are you allowed to scatter pet ashes anywhere?
So the regulations are that if you own a site, so let's
Yeah.
say I own a human crematorium, I
Yeah.
would need to have specific, it's an approval under the animal byproducts regulations to say that this site is regulated to receive the ashes or the bodies of deceased pets.
Hmm.
So some human crematoria have gone out and got that permission for another little area, because
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of a debate in the human world as to whether they're going to make cross the people who don't have pets, knowing that they've got a German Shepherd next to them
Yeah.
in the cemetery. So they've kind of done that, and they've done a separate area that is for pets, and then the people can go with their pets there.
Hmm.
So yeah, there are different regulations. However, if let's say you were going to send Brutus up in a firework,
Hmm.
you can do that with pet's ashes. So if it's a public space, or if it's your own garden, you can do that.
Yeah.
Equally, some people bury their pets at home,
Yeah.
and the whole kind of ritual thing. And when we're talking about, like, for example, the people listen to this podcast and maybe have X amount of toys, X amount of blankets, treats, etc. Another service I provide is an exhumation service. So it's where we uplift the remains of pets who've been buried in people's homes because they're moving and they don't want to leave them behind. So when I carry out that upload, it's quite incredible to see the things that are left behind with pets in that kind of ritualistic, which is a great way to be able to grieve and take back control of a situation that we've lost control of. Because if we have to euthanize our pet, we don't want to do it.
No.
We're swept along by it. So doing those things that are expressing our love, like taking the tennis ball they always played with or their favorite treat and placing them in. And we do that here at Dignity. So, you know, if they want to be laid with a tennis ball, to be cremated with them, that's fine. There are certain items we won't allow in the chambers, but most of the items we can come to some kind of compromise so that the person gets the service that they want. But yeah, I found all sorts of things in graves, in people's gardens. And it's lovely, actually. And when I tell the people, they're still there, because something like a plastic collar isn't going to go anywhere for a very, very long time. So, you know, when you find this kind of tag that means something to them, it means the world that those items are still there.
I again, when I was looking at your website, I had no idea there was pet exhumation.
Yeah, don't worry.
That's a tricky word.
It's one I've had to learn. Exhumations.
Exactly. So I was fascinated, and of course, it had not occurred to me, indeed, that I know people, you know, that bury their pets in the garden, and it had not occurred to me actually when people move. What do you do with that? Sometimes people, I'm assuming people take them with them to the new house, or do people then sometimes say, no, I don't want to take them to the new house. I now want them to go to Dignity because I know that it can all be in one place. Does that happen as well?
Yeah, indeed. So we don't bury bodies here. We do scatter ashes here. But like if you had a pet that has been buried for kind of 5 years, and potentially they may still partially be intact in the ground, and I'd come along, obviously the right thing to do for a number of reasons is to then cremate those remains. If they're skeletal remains and I guess are inert in that sense, then the person, sometimes they'll place them into a new blanket to bury. But this is where, again, a bit of forethought comes into it, because if you're burying at the point where you may build a patio in a few years' time, or bury when you know you're going to be moving in a couple of years, that's where you've got to kind of think advance and do the right thing.
I'm fascinated. I'm honestly fascinated. I'm learning so much. When I think about pets, I mainly think about cats, dogs, maybe birds. But then I looked on your website. I was like, there's a whole array of animals that you take care of, right? So can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, so I guess it almost goes to the heart of your podcast when I think about kind of what you're there doing for people. It all comes back to energy and emotion. So regardless of the size of pet, in fact, I was speaking to a lady yesterday who just brought her little budgie to us, and she was kind of embarrassed that she'd done that. And a lot of people feel this kind of disenfranchised grief where they feel they can't grieve because of other people judging them. So whereas people keep loads of stuff at home, sometimes some people get rid of everything. All of that is tied up with one thing, which is the energetic event and the wonderful bond that we have when we've got animals in our lives and as part of our families. So, you know, a budgie can have a bigger personality than a Great Dane. And it took me not very long to learn that when I came here and started helping my parents. And that bond, and when you think about that bond and the attachment bonds that people have with their pets that then moves on to the objects that they have that relate to the pets, you can kind of understand why some people go one way, which is like, I want to keep everything. Some go the other way, which is right, that pet's passed away. I am going to take their food bowl, their toys, their everything, and take it and just do something with it. So you've got that side of things. And then you've got, I guess, the people in the middle who kind of want to keep some stuff, dispose of other things or recycle them, and may want some things to go with their pet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the lady who brought the budgie in, was she feeling maybe like it's other people would say it's just a bird, while for her it was such an important part of her life and she was grieving about it.
Yeah. So you'll have people who are listening to this who hopefully will be nodding and going, the first thing I did when I started crying over the loss of my pet was to say sorry to whoever was with me.
Oh.
Okay. And the reason they do that is because of this disenfranchisement of feeling like they shouldn't be grieving for some reason. It's like everyone who has an exhumation service says to me, oh, everyone's going to think I'm mad doing this. But if I think about the amount of people probably listening to this who have got an urn or casket or keepsake for their pet, I bet you it's most of them.
Yeah.
And so normalizing grief's really important, and helping your friends and family who are going through this.
Yeah.
And one of our very important parts, and the vets as well, is to support and normalize the passing. And let's face it, they've been part of your family for X amount of years.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you be crying?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you be upset? But grief is a funny old thing. I try and simplify it as like say, energetic event that happens. Quite often it's proportional. So you need to let out the amount of energy of the event, but sometimes through attachment bonds. So let's just say the event is the passing of an assistance dog. Those of you who play mobile games, and you run through a times 10 or a times 100 token. That's what it's like. So it suddenly becomes a lot of a bigger amount of emotion that needs to come out and be processed, and that can take the rest of our lives. For most of us, I'll die grieving my pets that I've loved and lost over the years. I'm in a better place for the ones that have passed away longer ago, so I've got a great sense of gratitude of having them in my lives, but there's still always a part of me that misses them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I have more. I want to know more. Let's have a little break, and let's pick up definitely where we left off after the break. So see you soon. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this podcast where I'm chatting to Kevin from Pet Dignity Crem about losing a pet and the grief that's surrounded with that. And during the break, I actually said to Kevin, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm learning so much. I'm so interested. And I really hope, listeners, that you are, I know it sounds a bit weird, enjoying this podcast too, but that you're learning from it and that you're starting to see things in a different way. And that's what we always hope to achieve with this podcast, that decluttering is so much more. It's all the emotions that sit behind the stuff, including grief for pets. And I loved it, Kevin, how you said that you see it as an energy event, and when a pet passes away, it has a massive impact on people. And sometimes it's something that you've seen coming for a while, and you kind of mentally get ready for it. At other times, it is quick and sudden, and it shocks you. And either way, the grief is there for the pets, and everybody grieves in a different way. So I'm so grateful that we can talk about this, and about all the wonderful work you're doing as well in your cremation center, because there's so much more that you do. Because I always also wanted to talk about the charity that you have, and I also would love to talk about commemoration a little bit now. And I would love to, first of all, go, okay, what are things that you can do? Because of course, when a pet passes away, there are things they leave behind. Sometimes a lot of things, sometimes a few things. Some things are more important than other things. Some things indeed what you said, a tennis ball can maybe go in with the pet. But what are the things that people can do with all the items that are left behind? Of course, if they've got other pets and more pets, then maybe this is an easier process. But sometimes it's really that type of food or that kind of thing belong to that pet. So what are things that you've seen that people can do?
Yeah, so I guess in the same way as I had a wonderful dog called Mikey. His ashes are actually in. We have niches in our. I'm looking over there
Yeah.
because that's where our walkway is, and his ashes are still there, in behind a memorial for him, in an urn. And I know I kind of want to scatter him up in the gardens. And this is X amount of years. I can't remember how many years now, loads of years ago. I still haven't done it. So I think, yeah, everyone is different. So, like, if you've got your pet ashes at home right now, one of the things you can do is look to plan ahead and think, okay, when I die, what is going to happen to them? You
Hmm.
can write a letter of wishes to go with it. That means, like, with your will, to say, when I go, this is what I want to happen. Just make sure in your area of the world that what you're wanting to happen can actually happen.
Yeah.
I have known of families kind of tending to the grave of their loved one and discreetly scattering the ashes of their pet there, because the place said you're not allowed to do it, so they kind of quietly do it anyway. It would be nice to avoid that for people, because you don't want that added stress. But yeah, so going back to Mikey, he's in this urn. I unfortunately, back when we lost him, we didn't have the service that we offer now, which is a paw print taking service. So we're able to
Hmm.
take pets' paw prints. That can lead to the family just having it on their phones. It could be that they have a piece of jewelry with it on now. So the pet's
Hmm.
actual paw print gets imprinted on. Back when my mum and dad started, literally we had kind of like three options. And I was thinking about it the other day, how everything has changed over time. And I guess it's maybe, again, a bit more normalizing of people thinking, okay, I can have this and people aren't going to think I'm a weirdo.
Hmm.
So more and more people, certainly in the UK, are having keepsake items. So we have these wonderful little things called cuddle stones, which a little bit of the ashes go in. So even if you scatter them on a favorite walk or place, you have a little tiny, say it's like a little stone, but it's really dexterous. So you can put it in your hand and feel it, and their ashes go inside.
Okay.
There's also loads of stuff like jewelry items where you could have a little bit of the ashes either inside, or you can actually have them mixed with resin or glass, and then you can wear those and combine them with the color of your choice, so you can wear those items. So
Hmm.
there's so many things like that, that again, if it's the child's first pet, actually having that little cuddle stone by their bedside is going to potentially help them in their grieving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Equally, it may not. You've got to do this. This is why we kind of go, look, here's all the choices, have what you feel is right.
Hmm.
When, as a process now, when we're talking to people, we do actually say to them, would you like a little bit of token ashes kept separate, so that if you're going to scatter and you want to do something with the little amount afterwards, you can do.
Hmm. Amazing. I had no idea. I mean, there's like beautiful jewelry, indeed the paw prints. I saw a key ring. I saw lots of things on your website that I thought, I had no idea. This is amazing. And I think it can really, if people want it, it can really help them in their process as well, while the rest of the ashes go possibly in a casket, an urn, or anything like that.
I mean, we talk about caskets and urns. We once had to help the executors of an estate who approached us because there were I've got a feeling it was like 15 small dogs who'd been embalmed and placed into coffins all around the person's house.
Wow.
And so that person wanted to keep those pets with her. And when she passed, she hadn't left any instructions with what to do. So the executors thought the right thing to do is have those remains cremated,
Yeah.
and then they went with the person. So there's also, say every so often something comes across that really makes me go, whoa, okay, you want that. And some people just go, look, when I pass away, I want them combined with me and then put somewhere. But you have other people who have scattered them in a favorite walk long before. So yeah, everyone wants to do something different, and we're about just giving those choices.
Exactly. Honestly, fascinating to hear all these stories, and you must see loads of things. I also saw something really nice on your website was a paw print with a picture and then the color of I think it was a dog. I thought that was so nice as well, because I think what Leslie and I really think is important is that things don't get tucked away in boxes, but if something is special to you, that you bring it out and that you make it something into something lovely that you can display it. And I thought that was such a nice idea with the paw print and the picture and then the color, to make it really that is something that you can put out on your shelves and remember, and it's a sentimental item. So I thought that was a really nice option as well.
Yeah, and another one is you can take a favorite blanket
Yeah.
and actually have that made into a teddy bear.
Mm-hmm.
So you've kind of still got that, and you can physically then cuddle
Yeah.
it. That's a really cool idea. Yeah, the frames are lovely, and again, those frames can actually have the ashes behind as well. So
Okay.
you've not only got something that's not stashed away in a drawer or up in the loft, you can
Yeah.
actually place that item in. So and those frame makers actually bespoke make the frames for us. So if it's something slightly different, they'll make the frame to suit what you want to go in it.
Wow. Oh, I love that so much. That's amazing. Um, Now, of course, you said something to me as well before we started recording that I thought we definitely have to talk about that. You're trying to help low-income families, right? With providing caskets. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So um, the idea came to me when actually an old school friend, her mother had passed away, and the ashes that she'd had in actually those frames you were talking about, photo frame caskets, and she kind of said, "Look, what do I do with these?" And it kind of with everything that's going on, certainly in the UK, if not around the world, where we're finding money is tighter and tighter, I thought, well, let's start a scheme whereby if someone has scattered the ashes and has kind of, instead of them taking the urn home or disposing of the urn, then they can actually donate it to us.
Mm-hmm.
And with their permission, we can then pass it on to a family who can't afford it otherwise.
Yeah.
So yeah, and already I've had that happen, and we've been able to donate. We haven't launched it officially yet, but it's something that, in fact, a gentleman yesterday who
Mm-hmm.
first used us just after my parents started, and has amassed, I think he said about 7 caskets of his German shepherds over the years, and 4 of those caskets were going to go with his wife who's passed. So he said, look, if you can use those caskets for someone else, please do so. They're as part of the scheme as well. Yeah.
Amazing.
And then on top of that, and again, we're talking about kind of, again, what you're all about, which is maybe not shoving stuff in a box up in a loft that then when you die has to be decluttered.
Yeah.
If you've got items, so one of the topical ones is medicine, and I
Yeah.
appreciate there's people all over the place listening to this, so you'll have to find out the rules in your area.
Yeah.
But basically, in the UK, if you took the medicine back to the vet, they
Yeah.
have a duty of care to dispose of it.
Okay.
There are lots of animal charities that are desperate for medications. So subject to what it is, and if it's something that has to be kept in a fridge or has got a short shelf life, then those
Mm-hmm.
ones really should be going back to the vet to be disposed of properly. But there
Mm-hmm.
might be loads of other ones that you've got that actually could be utilised by a local charity.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of have a collection point for food, medications, and bedding and stuff that we then pass to charities in our area.
Yeah.
But you could just find out if you've got items like that. Just speak to the local charities, see what they are able to take and what they'd like,
Yeah.
and you might be able to give them, a cat carrier, a food bowl, some toys that they desperately want
Yeah.
to, and then you've helped them,
Yeah.
and you've also
Yeah.
then not shoved them up in the loft in a box.
Yeah, yeah. And I think as well, I think it's so lovely to do good for somebody else as well, to be able to donate these items. I mean, there are so many, there's so many giveaway sites and things like that. But if there's a specific charity that, and if if you're like, I'm all about the animals, I'm all about charity for animals, then how wonderful is it to donate some of these items that will otherwise gather dust in your cupboards and are hard, they're hard to declutter. But if they go to the right place, it feels like a good thing. And it feels like a weight lifted from your shoulders. And of course, it doesn't mean you have to give everything. Of course, you can keep a couple of bits that are special to you. But Leslie and I are all about keep the quality over the quantity. It's about what really makes you warm and inside, and you think, oh, that's lovely. That's the thing I want to keep. But that doesn't mean that if there's 20 food bowls, you have to keep all 20 of them. The one that was important, that you love, that they loved, is important, while the others can do so much good somewhere else.
Yeah, and like going back to Mikey, I placed with him a most handsome dog rosette that he won at a fun dog show,
Oh,
because
cute.
that's how we thought of him. He was the most handsome dog to us,
Oh, cute.
so that went with him. Again, where you've got some people who might want to reuse stuff for the next pet, and it almost the
Mm-hmm.
legacy continues.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, uh, if you've got a food bowl, if you've got a lead, if you've got these things, you think, no, that was so and so's, and you're not having them go with the pet when they pass. Yeah, give them to a charity. Is that positivity? That energy is a really wonderful, positive thing that can go forwards and help
Mm,
others, which I love.
yeah, yeah. I I'm thinking now, I'm thinking about the clients that I work with, I've worked with over the years and have pets, and I'm like, I need to have these conversations because I think this whole conversation has really opened my eyes. Now, Kevin, if people want to know more about you, where do they go? What's your website?
So we've got quite a few followers on our socials. So on the Facebook side of things, it's Dignity Pet Creme, and actually the website's the same. So it's dignitypetcreme.co.uk.
Okay, and you cover you're here in the south of England, aren't you? If people, so what can you remind me of the association that were a part of that? I assume have sites
Sure.
all over the UK because I think people are like, but I'm in Scotland or I'm in Wales or I'm in Birmingham. Where do I go?
Yeah, indeed. So it's appcc.org.uk is the
Okay.
website for the association. What you'll see on there is there's a code of practice. You'll
Yeah.
see that members are independently inspected, so that what they say they're doing, they are actually doing.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the biggest thing I would say to anyone who's listening today is check out where the best place is to take your pet to, or to collect your pet. Don't just leave it to chance, and trust that the stuff they are saying is what they actually do. That's why the association has that inspection for members, so that you to be a member, you have to be doing the right thing and
Yeah.
doing what you say you're doing.
Yeah. Kevin, thank you so much for this conversation. Listeners, have you gotten more clarity on what is important to you? Has this podcast really kind of made you think and go, wow, I don't have anything in place. I need to start thinking about it. I know grief and passing away and pets dying or humans dying, we find it very hard to talk about. But I'm hoping that this conversation, this podcast is going to really kind of give you some food for thought, and that you can think to yourself, okay, what are the steps that I want to take? I need to do some inquiring. I'm going to check out Kevin's website and maybe take it from there. And I'm going to think about all these things because I think it's super important. And again, Kevin, thank you so much for your time, for your wonderful explanations. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you here as a guest. And thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Ingrid. And if anyone has any questions after the event that come through to you, I'm happy again if you contact me and we can help kind of untangle some of those emotional things that are weighing people down, or they just need a bit of help with. Happy to be there to help.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.